Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm so excited you're here. If you're new here, if you found me through Danielle Ryan or DC, or you just found me in the algorithm, I'm so excited you're here. If you're not new here, thank you for coming back. I'm so excited that you are here to listen to me rant and ramble about all the internet scams that I have fallen for that hopefully you will not fall for now that you've heard me talk about them. So if you are new here, my name is Bethany. I'm a makeup artist and an opera singer who has fallen for a lot of scams. And on my channel, I tell you all the lessons that I've learned from those scams and what it's really like when you're in these spaces. So I hope you enjoy it. Today, we are going to talk about all the ways that believing in manifestation is the thing that actually holds you back from living your dream life. So I got a comment on my last video that said me speaking out, me talking about manifestation and what a scam it is holding people back from living their dream life. And I am here to tell you that it's actually the opposite. If you let go of the idea of manifestation, you will actually be able to make so many more of your dreams come true and accept the things that you can't change. I think we all know the serenity prayer, which is, God, give me the strength to change the things I can change, and the acceptance or whatever to release the things I can't change, and the wisdom to know the difference. So manifestation makes you believe that you are literally in control of everything. They will say, and this is something from neurolinguistic programming, which is a pseudoscience, they will say that 95% of your external world is created by your unconscious mind, which is obviously so false, but it makes you feel like you are in control of everything. So you take on responsibility for everything, even things you can't control. And when I go through every day and look at my old social media posts on Facebook, Time Hop, whatever it is you use to look at your old social media posts, I see how I just blamed myself for things that I had absolutely no control over. This idea that you can create your entire external world if you just have the right mindset, if you just rewire your brain in the right way, it will lead you to crippling anxiety, especially if you are already genetically prone to anxiety like I am, or just all of us post Panini world. We're all just like balls of anxiety. So this is the thing. You start to micromanage your thoughts, your feelings, because you start to become paranoid. Because you have this idea that you are creating your entire external world. So if you have a fear about money, if you look at your budget and you're like, oh my gosh, I overspent in this category and now like I'm in real danger of not being able to pay my rent this month, just because, maybe you couldn't pay your rent and you got evicted, it wasn't because you had that thought. It's just because you spent the money. Or like if you got fired and now you're in this struggle financially and you take these courses and you're still struggling financially and you can't find a job, you start to blame yourself. Like, oh, what's holding me back from finding my dream job? What is wrong with me? I'm telling myself a story about being unemployed. And this is one of the things they teach, that you can't change your life until you let go of the benefit of the story you're telling yourself. So there's some benefit to being unemployed. There's something I like about it. Like it's the attention I get from other people, or I feel like someone else will take care of me and that's the benefit I get from it. Or I don't know, like I don't like having to wake up at the same time every day. Although I think most people who are unemployed, like they would rather just have their full paycheck and not like the 2/3 or whatever, if you can sign up for unemployment, if that even comes through, if you even get approved for it. Anyway, there's so many things that happen in life and you can't control them. You didn't manifest the bad things that happened to you. You didn't manifest the good things either. Either the bad things were a consequence of stupid decisions you made, or sometimes bad things happen to good people. And that's one of the universal questions that philosophers have struggled with for literal millennia, which is, why do bad things happen to good people? And manifestation teachers will tell you, oh, because it's something unconscious in them that they're drawing the negative energy to them. And like, no, you didn't figure it out, Instagram girly who is selling $5,000 manifestation courses. You didn't figure out what like Socrates and Plato and all those other people couldn't figure out. Okay, you didn't figure it out. And all the like 19,000 religions there are in the world, which, by the way, manifestation is not a science, it's a religion, which I talk about in my other video. Go watch it. It is nonsense. It makes you super anxious. I would go in for auditions. I'm an opera singer, musical theater singer, performer. And I would go in for auditions, and after the audition, I would maybe have like a stray thought that was like, what if they cast a man who's 5'4"? I'm a tall woman, so I'm going to be taller than a 5'4" man. I'm like, I could possibly not get the role just because of that, because there are so many really, really talented actresses in the large city that I live in that they can easily find someone who's 5 feet tall to pair with the 5'4" man that they cast. And then they just look better on stage together. And that's fine. But when I was in manifestation world, I would be like, oh my gosh, now I'm not going to get it because I've created this limiting belief that I can't get roles because I'm too tall. And it's just bonkers because that is just a practical consideration. And when I was in manifestation, every audition held so much more weight and shame and self-blame when I didn't get cast, which is just so unhealthy for me as a performer. And also, if you are a performer, you understand that if you get 3 out of every 10 auditions, that is amazing. That is a really good batting average. And actually, you know what, with batting averages, I don't know a ton about baseball, but I do know that 300 and above is like a really good batting average. So most people are below that 300 and they're still good enough to like be on the team, be getting work. And that's kind of how it is. So if you're a sports person, that's how it is for the arts too. If you have a 300, 3 out of 10, audition hiring thing, that's really, really good. 2 out of 10 is still really good. So it's really just about getting out there as much as possible. And especially if you're a woman, it's even harder because it's that much more competitive. It's just, there's so many women, there are so many sopranos, you're competing against way more people and they all have to be really good or else they wouldn't have gotten this far. So these are just practical considerations. They're not gonna, just because I thought that, it doesn't mean I'm not gonna get cast. It just means that like that could be a reason why I didn't get a role that I thought I was really well suited for. And actually, it's kind of like a comforting thing. It's like, oh, I was really good, but I was taller than the man they cast as who would have been my love interest. And, let's be real, it's easier to find a really great woman in a variety of heights than it is to find a really great man in a variety of heights in the arts. Let's just be real. We're being real. So that's just an example from my own life, but the anxiety. So number 2, this is another way this is harming not only you, but all of society. When you are in the manifestation world, you excuse the evils of all rich people and you don't hold them accountable because they will teach you that if you are thinking things about rich people like, oh, they're so greedy, oh, they're so terrible, oh, they're like, they're just horrible people, rich people are terrible, that's going to block you from being rich. And this is so insidious because the situation we have economically in the United States, I'm in the United States, is that ever since the 1980s, the gap between the ultra wealthy, and I'm not talking about like your friend's dad who makes like 6 figures. I'm talking about billionaires, literal people who have so much wealth, they could not spend it in multiple lifetimes. I once did an exercise where I'm child-free by choice. I don't ever want to have kids, but I did an exercise where I tried to spend only $1 billion over the course of my life, and I pretended like I had kids and grandkids, and I paid for like multiple houses, like a regular home, a vacation home, boats, cars, kids' colleges and grad schools and weddings and grandkids and multiple vacations. Like I tried to add it all up and I got to like 300 million. That is still 700 million away from just one single billion. Okay, so billionaires should not exist. This is a flaw in the system, and they got there through exploitation, and we have to hold people accountable. But they clearly do not have an abundance mindset, or they would not be union busting so freaking hard. They would not be hoarding their resources. They would be generous. Look at Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, Mackenzie Bezos. She was giving away like $1 billion a month to charity and HBCUs because she knows she can never spend it. You know, what's the point? So yet, Jeff Bezos, instead of actually, he could solve like the homeless crisis in San Francisco if he wanted, and instead he's taking a $5 billion joyride to the moon in a giant penis. Like, and look, like we all shop from Amazon. I know, like there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. Like, but anyway, it's just, the point is, whatever you feel about them personally, I think we can all agree that they do not have an abundance mindset because they are hoarding their wealth. They are clutching it like a dragon. If even $1 is gone, they will wake up and burn the entire town down, which is what they're doing. Amazon, Starbucks, Tesla, all these people with their union busting efforts. They are terrified of their workers getting enough power to actually demand to be paid a living wage. Unions are powerful. Vote pro-union. Anyway, power to the people. Your labor is valuable. Labor deserves the rewards of its labor. You deserve the rewards of your labor. Anyway, labor is entitled to all it creates. That is the phrase. So, and regardless, you can't paint all rich people with one brush as if they're all good people with abundance mindsets and scare normal people into not critiquing or holding rich people accountable for the greedy, exploitative things that they do, which they absolutely do. And of course, like not all rich people. I've heard Taylor Swift pays all of her employees really, really well. That's just what I've heard. I don't know. And please don't get in the comments and start making debates about Taylor Swift or Jeff Bezos specifically. Like I'm just using them as examples because obviously we know who some billionaires are. We don't know who all of them are, but we know who the famous ones are, and we know what we know about them. Anyway, so I'm just using her as an example. I've heard she pays everyone really, really well. However, I still don't think she should be a billionaire. I think that our system is flawed and that no one should be able to accumulate that much money, but also we should critique the system. We should also critique individual people for their actions when those actions harm others. And we shouldn't be afraid that critiquing those people for their harmful actions is going to prevent us from getting rich. That's bananas. It's stupid. And it's holding everyone back from living their dream life, because as long as you are, you know, licking the boots of the billionaires, like, I'm sorry, you're never going to be one. You're never going to be one. Look me in the eyes. You're never going to be a billionaire. Even freaking Manifestation Babe, she's so far away from being a billionaire. She's never going to be a billionaire. It's not happening. It's not happening. The things you have to do to get to billionaire status are not accessible to, you have to be born into wealth. You have to be able to exploit people. You have to have a hell of a lot of good luck. It's never going to happen. So stop licking their boots. Like, it's ridiculous. John Steinbeck once said, I wrote down the quote in my notes. Okay. John Steinbeck once said that socialism never took root in America because the poor see themselves not as an exploited proletariat, but as temporarily embarrassed millionaires. So I would update that quote to say billionaires, because that's like our new millionaires today, even though a billion is like way, 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 way more than a million. But And let's don't get in the weeds in the comments about socialism, and because I'm not making it about that. I'm just making it about the second part of the quote, which is that we hold ourselves back from improving our lives because we won't acknowledge the reality that we're living in. And manifestation encourages this type of thinking that like, oh, like I'm actually a billionaire. It's on its way to me. You know, you're encouraged to think of yourself as this rich babe version of yourself. And that way you're calling all that stuff into you instead of looking at your situation and saying like, I'm being exploited. I deserve a raise. My labor is valuable. I'm going to join a union. I'm going to vote for a tax on the ultra wealthy. I'm going to vote for this tax that hopefully will pass in Illinois that taxes the ultra wealthy on property purchases and uses that money designated as housing for homeless people. And we all know, like, it's no mystery the homeless crisis can be solved if we just give people homes. Like, literally, then they have what they need to make their own lives better. Are there exceptions? Probably. Like, maybe there are people who will end up back out on the streets. But for a large percentage, like the majority, I don't have the stats in front of me. I maybe should have before I started filming this. But for the vast majority, if you just give them a home, like a temporary housing for enough time for them to get back on their feet, then they're fine from there on out. So anyway, but if you think of yourself as better than them, if you think of yourself as, if you don't acknowledge yourself as being exploited by these billionaires, if you identify with them and not with the regular workers all around you, then you're always going to be just like making them rich and not making yourself rich, which is also what Catherine Zankino wants, because you keep buying her courses, you're making her rich and you're not making yourself rich, by the way. You can see all about that in my former videos. And not just Catherine, like all of them. Amanda Francis, Jen Sincero, Gabby Bernstein, scam. They're all scammers. Tony Robbins, king scammer. He's at the top of the scamifestation pyramid, okay? So number 3, this is another way it's ruining your life. You are less compassionate towards others. Because again, you think of yourself as better than them. You're picturing yourself as the rich babe version of yourself. And when other people are having money struggles or any kind of struggles, your thinking is going to immediately be to blame them for it. To be like, well, if you just took this course, if you just released your limiting beliefs, like, look what I'm doing. I'm going to be manifesting all this stuff. Like, you start to think of yourself as having some kind of secret to life that makes you better than them. And then also, a big part of the manifestation community is like, I'm going to be so generous. And when women have a lot of money, they pour back into their communities and make the world a better place. This is true. But if your only way of helping others is in savior mode, that's a huge ego thing. Like, what about making the world a better place for everyone and creating systems and structures and society that make it possible for everyone to thrive, which is absolutely doable, but you don't want that because you want to be better than someone and you want to give them your money. Like, oh, I'm so generous. Like, oh, look at me, like being so generous with the wealth that I manifested. But actually, I didn't manifest it. I just sold manifestation and scammed a bunch of people. And then I made my millions that way and retroactively called it manifestation because once I started selling these courses, I had never manifested a thing in my life. I was sleeping on my grandma's couch. Okay. Rule number 4, even though you're taking on everything, so I mentioned you're taking on full responsibility, at the same time, you're also avoiding responsibility. So this might sound like an oxymoron, but here's how it works. Have you ever seen the meme that will say, oh, men will go on The Bachelor to avoid going to therapy, or men will crawl through mud for 6 hours instead of going to therapy, or like it's a whole, and this is not just men, but the idea of the meme is that men are so afraid of actually getting emotionally vulnerable, probably because of the way that we have conditioned them in society, that they will do all these, they have these intense emotions, they have traumas to work through, but instead of just going to therapy, they will just do these like crazy outlandish things. And I think that this applies to everyone in multiple situations. This is why there's something in our psychology that makes us drawn to things that seem like flashier or more extreme, and we think that that is going to fix us. So for example, let's use the example of like going to therapy, getting your money stuff together, and losing weight. These are like 3 major areas of our lives as humans that the solution is so boring and monotonous, but we will choose the crazy thing instead of the crazy thing that promises big flashy results instead of the boring day-to-day stuff that actually gets us results. So if you are having money issues and you buy this manifestation course, you think you put so much energy into doing all of the homework. And when I say you, I mean me. I put all this energy into doing every assignment, every module, every homework assignment, every hypnosis, all the bonuses. Like, I did freaking everything. And all I really needed to do was get a budget and stick to it, start investing, get a robo-advisor for free. Like, TD Ameritrade, I use Ellevest, like any of these things. That's actually how you create wealth. And no, it's not instant, because that's not how life works. If you want to get rich quick, you could scam people or get an inheritance from like a rich relative. It's just the way that wealth is created is not instantaneous for most people, unless you win the lottery or something crazy happens to you. For the rest of us, it's like we have to do the uncomfortable things. We have to pay off our credit card debt. We have to make plans. We have to look at the freaking spreadsheets and budgets and, have our wealth grow in an index fund for 30 years in a Roth IRA. We have to negotiate with our boss for a raise, which is really uncomfortable, or job hunt for a better job, which is really uncomfortable, So the first part is that you try to control things you can't control. And then the things that you can control, you offload onto these weird spiritual practices instead of just doing the thing that you need to do, which is not going to be instant. It's going to take a long time, but the time is going to pass anyway. There were a lot of people who wanted to manifest weight loss. And trigger warning, I'm going to talk about weight loss and counting calories here. So if that's not something you want to hear about, like, click ahead a few minutes. But this is another thing that humans tend to go for the flashy thing. This is why there's always a new crazy diet that gets people sucked in. There's always a new thing that's like keto, South Beach Master Cleanse, whatever. A lot of MLM companies, guilty. I used to be in one of them. When I did Beachbody, I did lose 9 pounds in 3 weeks, and that meal plan is extremely restrictive, but the actual key to sustainable weight loss is eating in a small calorie deficit for a long time. That's it. And you can do it for free. Like, I actually personally have lost 12 pounds in 3 months, so a pound a week, following MyFitnessPal, being in like a 200 to 300 calorie deficit. Like, that's it. And I exercise too, but I mean, exercise is like 20% of it, maybe. The other 80% is nutrition. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not a personal trainer, so those are the disclaimers. But in general, this is something that I think humans are prone to. They're prone to fall for these things that promise more instant results because it's hard to be patient. And sometimes it's hard to believe that something so boring can get you results. It's hard to believe that like just having a budget, you can actually pay off your credit card debt, even if it takes 3 years. When those 3 years are over, I've also paid off credit card debt. You can celebrate and be so excited, and it's freaking amazing. I am now, the first 2 months that I was losing weight, I was like, all of my clothes still fit the same. It wasn't until I got to that 8-9 pounds, so the end of the second month, that I started noticing. I started to be able to see the changes. And that's 2 months in, which is great, actually, if you think about it. But a lot of us are really impatient and we want those results faster. And I still have how many 12 pounds to go? 13 pounds to go to my goal. But so yeah, it might not be until like May or June that I see that goal that I started in November, but that's like what actually works. So, and as someone who paid off credit card debt, like, and has a budget, and also I doubled my income in 2021. Ask me how. I got a regular job. I stopped falling for scams. So it somehow both makes you blame yourself for everything, but then also not take enough responsibility for the things that you actually do have control over. So, number 5, it gets you too attached to extraordinary things, which makes it really hard to be realistic. And manifestation teachers, in their defense, will try to, they're very similar to MLM people in this way, where they'll talk about, you know, you have to do it incrementally. And MLM people will say this too, like, oh, maybe you just want to earn like $500 a month, you know, like they'll give lip service to these smaller things, but they're really getting people in with like the big flashy stuff. They're like, design your dream life, put it on your vision board. And they're like showing pictures of and videos of themselves in the Maldives on vacation and holding their Louis Vuitton purse or whatever. It's like, so that's why everyone's buying your course, because they want that. And it was actually like a really hard come down for me when I remember one night I was like getting ready to go to bed, and the thought just like hit me in the head that was like, what if you don't ever become a millionaire? And I was like, what? And I kind of panicked because I had been so entrenched in this manifestation world. And I was just like, no, like the possibility. And now obviously I've been in therapy and I've worked through stuff, and I'm like, I might never be, I mean, I'll probably be a millionaire by the time I retire, because we'll all need, the way inflation works and investing and stuff, like being a millionaire when you retire is basically a necessity at this point. But like in general, like I probably won't ever be like in my working years, like someone who has multi-millions. Like that was never gonna happen. You know, like that was never gonna be the reality for me. And I don't need that much, by the way. But it's fine to want a lot of money, and like it's fine to be ambitious in your job, or if you have a business, go for it. But like it takes a lot to get to that level. And I have recently realized that I want to have a day job that doesn't stress me out, that like when 5 p.m. rolls around, I don't have to think about it, and I can be in shows and have rehearsals on the evenings and weekends. And when I'm not in shows, I can just relax and I can read romantasy novels and watch Queer Eye and, you know, sit on the couch with my cat in my lap. You know, like anyway, that's neither here nor there, but it gets you attached to these like super extraordinary things. And again, it's like that quote that I used, like you're thinking of yourself as a rich babe version of yourself, and you're not in reality, and you're not looking at what you actually need to do, because you're waiting for the universe to bring you something. You're like trusting that all these weird spiritual things you're doing is like attracting the next steps to you. And they never give you any realistic practical advice. Like they never say like, here's how you start a business. Here's how you market yourself. Here's how you find clients. It's all just like, take inspired action. Whatever feels inspiring, like that's what the universe is directing you to do. That's how you're going to get rich, which is a whole other can of worms. And maybe I should make a whole video about how everyone just ends up teaching manifestation to try to get rich, because that's what the manifestation teachers did to get rich. It's wild. Number 6 is victim blaming. Victim blaming yourself, victim blaming others. Again, this goes right in with number 1. If you are, you know, creating your entire outer world with your unconscious, then like you blame yourself for sabotaging your relationships. You blame yourself for not being rich enough. You blame yourself for not getting, you know, the gig or winning the race or whatever it is. And then you're less compassionate towards other people because they don't, you know, like they don't get what they want. They're having money troubles. You just judge them because you've internalized this idea that everyone is creating their external world with their unconscious mind. And so like you're kind of a mean person who has no compassion or empathy for anyone else. Like even if you're nice, if you're like, oh, that sucks that they're going through that, you're like, I wonder how they manifested that, you know? Like it's terrible. And this is something that gets me so heated, even though, like I mentioned, I personally am child-free. I've never been pregnant. I never will be pregnant. But they will talk about this idea that 95% of your external world is created by your unconscious mind. You're always manifesting all the time. You create your world. And then they will be like, I manifested my baby. And I'm like, excuse you? You are saying that everyone who's struggling with infertility, it's their fault. They manifested it. And that is so cruel. And I literally just saw an Instagram story of someone who had twins and had struggled with infertility previously to that. And she was like, look what you can manifest. And she had this like video reel of her twins. And I'm like, that is cruel. Like, that is absolutely unacceptable. It's ridiculous that you are saying you manifested these twins when people are struggling with pregnancy loss and child loss and like not being able to get pregnant in the first place. Like you didn't manifest them. You had IVF. Like you had privilege. Like all of these manifestation people, it all boils down to privilege. If you pull at the thread long enough, privilege shows up. But like sometimes IVF doesn't work for people. Like they didn't manifest that. Like what are you doing? Like how can you say that? It's also super ableist because it's like there are people who contract Lyme disease, for example, and that leaves them disabled in some way. Lyme disease is wild. It's so wild. But did they manifest getting bit by a tick because they were like out in the woods and they had some fear from a past life of getting Lyme disease? Like that was running their, like it, no. It's just people want to manifest health, wealth, and love. And these are all things that you can't control. You can control some parts of your health, but anyone who's gotten a cancer diagnosis, anyone who's struggled with infertility, even though they were healthy their whole life, anyone, health is not guaranteed. And we can control what we can, and I encourage everyone to take care of themselves as best they can, but there's no guarantee you're not going to get cancer, and that terrifies me, but and I don't sit there and think about it, but it's also like, if I get cancer, I didn't manifest it. Like, it's just stupid. If I get skin cancer, it's because I didn't wear sunscreen and I went to the tanning bed as a teenager and I'm paying the consequences of that action. It's not because I was manifesting it. It's so stupid. And love, that depends on someone else. You can't manifest a partner because that person has to choose you. That person has to decide they want you to. You can't manifest a partner. You can't manifest, and I've already talked about, you can't manifest wealth. You can work for it. You can negotiate your salary. You can try to find better jobs. You can start a business. You can do a lot of things to try to increase your wealth, but there's a lot that you can't control. Your business might fail. It doesn't mean you manifested that. Your boss might say no. You might not be able to get hired for another job because of the economy or all these things that you can't control. Life is a mixture of things we can control and things we can't control. And I don't know what the percentages are. Some days it feels like I am in control of that 95%. And other days it's like, oh, I control 4% because there's so many things happening that I feel completely helpless about. And honestly, I think that's why so many people fall for manifestation, because it gives them a false sense of control in a world where we're constantly reminded that we do not control stuff. And manifestation, packages itself as this religious, spiritual, feminine, free from capitalism, free from the rat race, and free from the grind, when actually it's just a spiritual grind, and it's upholding everything of capitalism. It's you should want to be conventionally attractive. You should want to have a conventionally attractive partner. You should want to be super rich and, give to the poor people below you. You should want to have all of the designer stuff, a vacation house. It's not wrong to want that. It's not selfish. And you should want it and you should go for it for you. It's all the capitalism stuff. Like, it's just everything that we've been told from living in America, that like this is the stuff we should want, and we should want it at the expense of other people, and everyone should be responsible for their own success, and we're not at all connected to each other. Stupid. I'm gonna stop myself from going on like a big rant about all the ways that America is broken. I've already ranted enough about it. But manifestation, believing in manifestation, is presenting itself as an alternative to the grind. But what it's really doing is it's getting you to worship the grind, the things that the grind has promised, but it's promising that you'll get those things in another way that also doesn't work. The grind didn't work for you to get all these things? Well, try manifestation. And if it doesn't work for you, it's your fault. And instead of looking at ways that you could improve the world, like, keep just focusing on yourself and don't give a crap about anyone else. And if they're struggling, if they're suffering, it's their own fault too, because they manifested it. It just makes you a really crappy person. Also, I'm going to get kicked out of, I am in a Manifestation Babe Academy graduates group on Facebook. And, this is the denouement. Okay, the video is done. This is the update. Manifestation Babe now has a new course. As you know from my previous videos, she has said at the beginning of her courses, this is the only course you'll ever need. There's not going to be some secret extra course for you to get more information. I'm not going to upsell you. I'm not going to put out something new that has other secret stuff that's not in this course. And at first, she followed that. So when she created the new Manifestation Babe Academy course, alumni could enroll in it for free for a $200 deposit. And then once you finished, you would get that $200 back. So it was free. It was there for accountability. Don't get me started. But she did abide by that. She now has a new course called Sovereign Money. Insert Liz Lemon eye roll here. That's just supposed to be focused specifically on money, and she is charging for it. Even if you're an alumni, you have to pay for it. And our fellow alumni have asked, how is this different from Rich Babe Academy? We bought Rich Babe Academy before it got rolled into Manifestation Babe Academy. And they said, this is going to be a different approach because Catherine has learned so much and grown so much. And yes, you have to pay for it. Okay, because your first program that I did twice and your second program that I did twice did not work. It's a faulty product. I have to pay for the better version of it when the first one didn't work. Tell me how that works. Oh, but it's my fault it didn't work because I didn't have the right mindset. I am just livid. The audacity of this to do this is beyond. She's creating a problem and then she's charging you to fix it. It's ridiculous. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I like to watch YouTube videos when I'm folding laundry or doing chores around the house, or doing my makeup for the day. So if this is kind of long, I hope that I kept you company while you were getting ready for the day or doing chores. That's a great idea, and that's why I improved my sound, if some of you like to listen to it like a podcast. But yeah, that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much. Thank you to my new subscribers. I really appreciate you. I am not monetized. This is just a passion project for now. I do not have the kind of platform or the kind of reach that any of the manifestation teachers that I've mentioned have. But if I inspired you to tell your story, I encourage you to make a YouTube video, or if you just want to send me an email, I will tell your story for you. But I would love to continue this movement that I would say right now that me and Danielle Ryan are kind of the two people, and she has way more followers than me, but she's amazing and she's really tech savvy. But we're kind of starting, I think, this movement of the anti life coaching, spirituality, manifestation space. And I hope it becomes as popular as the anti-MLM movement. And I will have more anti-MLM content for you guys coming soon. So next video, I'm going to react to some manifestation TikToks and Instagrams, just like you guys asked. I can't wait. And thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.